welcome everyone. Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have an informative video for you guys in this one here. This is relating to a really interesting topic around what's called SAB 121. If you're wondering what that is, we're going to go into that straight away after this first bit of introductory aspect of the channel. Of course, would be nothing without this part. Don't forget, guys, to smash that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well if you enjoy the content. That's what I'm going to do. Let's go straight into this topic because I think this is one of the biggest notions in recent times that can really progress crypto. Now, we know with the SEC, particularly with Ripple and XRP over the last few years, has very much suppressed Ripple as a company and its ability to keep pushing the boundaries in the blockchain DLT sphere, albeit it carried on doing everything in the background anyway, of course. But from that securities aspect, we've got a bit more clarity nowadays on that. I think it's still being concluded for that case in general. But Ripple and XRP aside, the generalization of crypto being able to be offered by banks is something that we had a theory on a few years ago. It's one of the first videos I had actually done on the channel. And certainly since being invited and going to things like the Digital Pound Foundation event, where, as you can imagine, pretty much representatives from all banking institutions, whether it be in the UK or globally, have been a part of these conversations. So it's been really a bit of an eye-opener for me personally in the last 2-3 years to be involved in those events. Obviously highly grateful to be invited to those and continue to be so. But one of the topics was always about the custodian rights in banks, the utilization of crypto in those. What do we mean by this? I mean, very much so. This is, by the way, this article we'll talk about in a minute. I'm just giving a bit of an overview. So the UK banks obviously offer many different services, investing, pensions potentially as well, savings accounts, etc., and of course hold our own money to an extent. What's really interesting is the opportunity for banks to be custodians of crypto assets. Now, I've always had a bit of a toss of the coin, as it were, on this, because it can go really well from an investing perspective in the sense that mass adoption can really take off because we've already seen things like ETFs, which opens up doors massively to a bigger audience. But already people that are in the investing market, not so much general public. The only way the general public would come on board with crypto is if they are, like perhaps you and I, already getting crypto exchanges, getting involved in the tokens, buying, selling, etc. Outside of investment, utilizing the tokens in whatever way, whether it's for utility or marketing purposes, whatever that answer is. Loads of different formalities of that. But if we opened up the opportunity for general public to be able to access crypto through their existing bank accounts and hold them in their bank accounts, arguably under very stringent regulation, formalities, legalization, which banks obviously adhere to through, well, here in the UK, for example, Finance Conduct Authority, FCA, a load of other standardizations, of course. Very conveniently, and I mentioned this in the previous video, of course, 2025 is where I thought this might happen. So this article in front of us is really valid and important for the point we made many years ago, because in 2025 you've got the RTGS, the remittance system worldwide, globally switching on to the new digital era, alongside the compliance standards, for example, with ISO 222. Those that don't know what I'm talking about, you can check out my previous videos on those two topics. Absolutely phenomenal information in those, if I say so myself, but the key was we were building to this moment. So first and foremost, staff accounting bulletin. I was not too familiar with what that was until a couple of days ago when I was like, oh, hang on a minute, what's this about? Because I do remember something, maybe like in 2022 or somewhere around this time, I think the SEC, along with like trying to attack Ripple and XRP, etc., or keep them at bay, they required companies, so like crypto exchanges, for example, and banks who had some kind of formality with crypto at that time, that custody crypto assets for customers would have to be recording them as liabilities on their balance sheets. So that in turn meant that you have massive more amounts of regulatory aspects to that. So it could become really costly, it could become time consuming, resource usage, etc., etc. Also, from the exchanges, the crypto exchanges side, I mean, to be fair, a lot of them are kind of adapted since then, and even like with KYC and things like that, but it basically forced them to essentially recognize customer assets as their own, which could, in theory, distort financial statements if they were to ever create or provide them. Now, what we mean by customers' assets as their own is, well, it's like a bank with the IOU situation, sorry. When you've got money in the bank, you don't actually own it. Can you believe it? It's an IOU statement. Even with cash is an IOU burden for the Bank of England that owes you money, or the tenure of you passing on to someone else is an IOU. That money, well, it's a complicated subject, guys. I mean, one of the first times I ever sort of understood it more was watching Zeitgeist back in, I think, 2007 or 2008. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. I think it's like the second part of that series about the financial institutions around the world, how money became to be in the first place and taxed, etc., and how actually money works in the system for interest, being able to create money out of thin air, etc., etc. So anyway, that point being is that exchanges would have to acknowledge that, I guess, like, as users, we kind of knew that anyway, because if you don't have your own keys, it's not your crypto, is that I was saying. But it was to make that formality that you are actually liable for these assets. So those are kind of some barriers, not all of them, but some barriers that maybe discourage people on that institutional level as well as general public level being able to adopt crypto in an easier way and a faster paced way. So obviously taking in consideration the potential increase in that systematic risk opportunity that could be there. So when that was done in 2022, I think, it might even say it on here, to be fair, I read most of this, but I was more about the gist of what's going on. This article here is about SAB 121 undone. Will bank regulations on crypto follow? So this is the big key part here. Now, as far as I'm aware, if it's being undone, that would essentially mean that it's already been discussed of the overturning or the modification of this rule in particular. So all those things we talked about before and many other applications to this could be reversed. It could be removed completely or it could be modified. So it potentially makes it easier for banks and financial firms to offer crypto custody services without the complications that are involved like currently or have been in the past. So I believe the 23rd was about 7 days ago or so, the Securities Exchange Commission, or SEC, rescinded its Staff Accounting Bulletin 121. So that's exactly what this article is about, or SAB 121, which basically, from an appeal, expected to facilitate banks and financial institutions in offering crypto custody services without the previous accounting burdens. So one of the key points that I pulled up on another article, I'll just read out here quickly. Additionally, President Trump issued an executive order titled Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technology, aiming to promote the responsible growth and use of digital assets and blockchain technology across various sectors. The order establishes the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets to propose a federal regulatory framework for digital assets. This is all great. I was wondering how long it would take between that executive order being created and also that aspect of taking on board what's really occurring with these kind of regulations and legislations. So we've got to, sorry, the dogs are barking. We've got to this point now where this is being undone. It means that throughout the legislation perspective, that can be improved and overturned. It also means that banks can arguably now become custodians of crypto assets. So we go back to my point earlier. This wakes up an entire population around the world that already has a bank account, who has maybe been interested or known of crypto assets, to be able to potentially buy them through the banks eventually. This was always the plan, guys. This is always going to happen. Crypto exchanges just allowed us to get that early adoption, that early availability of them, an accumulation. The ultimate gold stepping stone for us, which I didn't think would happen this quickly, was for it to open up to that mass adoptive market. We've already seen, as I said, the ETF aspects, potentially pension funds coming through that as well. There was no doubt in our minds that banks would take this eventually. So why I said about the flip of the coin earlier is mainly around the fact that when we kind of got invested or originally excited about blockchain and crypto was this decentralized formatting. Bitcoin is obviously fundamentally decentralized. Majority of the other crypto assets, I mean, if you go to the history of Ethereum before it did the forking, we got Ethereum Cash and Ethereum as we know today, the ETH. That originated as a centralized system, and they wanted to branch it off. Hence why the Cash version came out. The team split. I can't remember what year that was, but it was in part of my dissertation I did in my crypto blockchain diploma a few years back. So there was always an argument up in hands as some people in the crypto sphere believed that we could fully go decentralized still and stay away from the system. That's why I kind of got invested and excited about crypto as a technology, because it was something that could change the world, hopefully for the better. But we also knew that, well, whether you look at the pandemic or any other in situation in the world, if you try and go against the system, they'll either push you out of it, not allow you to use it in the current system, or they'll try and adopt it, modify it, and turn it into something that works for them. So I think that's where we are. I think that's where we are right now. They've taken crypto for the last, 4 or 5 years properly into governmental power. We know the US government, etc., hold Bitcoin and so on and so forth. Around the world, countries do. They probably hold more Bitcoin than they do their own currency, because the ultimate situation really was in the near future, currency in general around the world would be eliminated. We'd have a one world unified currency, one world government, all these things that were sort of presented as conspiracy theories, over the last 2 decades or so, are coming into fruition. So we're at this crossroad now where we're seeing banks with the potential opportunity based on this situation here with SAB 121 to open the doors for this. It's not definitively saying in some of these articles that is exactly what's going to do, but the key principle here is this is around digital assets and tokenization, the ability for banks and other exchanges to be able to open up more fluently. Certainly in the US market, it's not dedicated to UK at all. Similar things are happening here, but as I said, from the events I go to for many years, the ultimate goal has always been to open this up to banks. They will be utilizing the technology already. They're already doing massive case studies and piloting schemes around that. We know that through BIS, etc., and all the examples that I've given in previous videos. But the next step was to eliminate cash in the next 5 to 10 years. Bear in mind, guys, in the pandemic, I learned this at the Digital Power Foundation. I think it was they had a goal after the Agenda 30 program in 2015 by the World Economic Forum to try and increase cashless payments by something like 300% by 2021, 2022. Conveniently, in the years of that was the pandemic. Bit of a shock, isn't it? And then literally that jumped by something around 13,500%. All those people that said, I'm never going to have a debit card, or I'm never going to use contactless payments. I will always use my bank. Well, the banks are closing down, my friends, all over the place. Now everyone's pretty much using contactless. If it's a debit card, most of the time, smartwatches, smartphones. Eventually, it'll be biometrics in the coming years. So they're already winning that race. And then the next part of it is, how do we accumulate the money we've perhaps lost in the crypto markets for the last 5, 10, 15 years? How do we loop this back round? And most people will probably fall for it, and they'll go, well, I've got all my crypto in my ledger or my other asset accounts or exchanges. I'd rather use it with my bank. Let's put it across there. And hey ho, presto, they've got back all the money they lost out of their accounts in the banking system. A lot of money, billions upon billions, if maybe not trillions, been exiting the banking systems through to crypto systems from the last 5-10 years or beyond. So you can start doing the math and you can start understanding the dot connection aspect here of what's really going on. So yes, it's great as an investor to see further mass adoption opportunity, but equally what I will say to you as a balanced opinion and mindset of what I've known from the World Economic Forum and everything else that's been going on since those documents were signed in 2015 and also the ones in 91 for the Agenda 21 program, there is a method to this madness for them. So just be fully aware of the implications of all this, the good and the bad. Yes, we can make money off it, but ultimately, I've got a sneaky thing in my head. I don't know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your comments in below. That they're just going to draw this back. They're going to claw it back one way or another. They'll either eliminate us from society from being able to use tokens or coins, etc. in the near future, and force us to put them back into our bank accounts, whether it's a Bitcoin, whether it's an XRP, they still have a residual value behind them, a IOU money behind them, and they will be going back into the custody of the banks, which we don't own the money if that happens, and we don't own our assets regardless of private keys and this, that and the other. That's my thought and opinion on it. I can see the path. So let's enjoy it while we're here. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'm going to wrap this video up. It's really interesting. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.